Yo, what's going on YouTube? This is the first video in the tutorial series for the new Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate. Yo, what's going on YouTube? Welcome to my Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate Basics tutorial. Okay, so Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate demo came out on Thursday for Wii U and 3DS, and the demo doesn't come with any sort of tutorial. So, with that in mind, anyone that's new to the game will be left a little bit up in the air because there's not a lot of explanation and it can kind of throw you in at the deep end. So I'm going to run you through the basics, some sort of combat basics, some item basics, and then sort of go from there. So hopefully, when you next play the demo, you'll have a bit of a better idea. So to start with, if you hold L and you press Y or A, you basically cycle between your different items you've got, and then when you press Y, you can use your item. Now, this menu on the side allows you to sort of quickly select things mid-battle and sort of lets you switch them up and, you know, change it whenever you need to. So basic sort of items, potions obviously used for health. Stakes are used to regenerate your stamina. So the yellow bar at the top of the screen is your stamina. Now if that gets low, like anytime you run or you do any kind of like big attacks, then it uses your stamina. So obviously if it gets too low, then you need to top it up. Now that bar will gradually deplete throughout the level as well, so using stakes will replenish that. Then as well as that, there are a few other items that we picked up from the blue box at the start. We picked up a sonic bomb, which we will demonstrate slightly later on, a shock trap, some bombs, and then obviously some extra spare supplies like potions. Now, getting to combat basics, if you want to know a bit more about weapons, then check at the end of the video and I've got a weapon breakdown for each of the different weapons in the game. But there are a few sort of combat basics. Now obviously X and A are your base moves, and then you can always do a special move by pressing X and A together. Now obviously depending on the weapon you have, the special move will come out differently, but we are using the sword and shield right now, and if you are new to the game, this is the weapon I recommend you use, because not only is it fast, allows you to sort of move around quite quickly, it's quite a strong weapon. Well, I mean it's not as strong as the other weapons, but because it's fast, it makes up for the sort of lack of damage. But it does have a shield, so if you don't know the enemies and you need to sort of learn their move patterns, then you can use the shield to kind of defend yourself. Additionally, every single other weapon, if you want to use items, then you need to put your weapon away by pressing Y and then use your item, whereas the sword and shield, if you hold R to block, then you can use items at the same time. So this way, if you're new to the game and you're kind of trying to learn things, you don't have to worry about putting your weapon away and sort of dodging here, there and everywhere, then sword and shield is a great way to get into it. Now jumping into a few sort of combat basics, one of the most important moves you're going to need is the ability to roll, which is the B button. Now basically anytime you sort of do a move, then there's obviously a little bit of downtime afterwards, and what you can do is you can roll out of that, or most of the time you can roll out of it, and that basically gets rid of sort of some of the downtime and means that you can get out a little bit quicker. Now if you're doing sort of lengthy combos, it's always good to end it with a roll, or for example if you see an enemy sort of doing a move that's coming towards you and you typically wouldn't be able to run out in time, then rolling is another good idea. Now the other thing is, if you are sort of mid combo and you don't think you're going to finish it in time, or the enemy's going to sort of turn and hit you, then don't try and land the last hit because you're going to get hit. You're better off just to roll out and then live to fight another day. Now, going off the back of roll, if you put your weapon away and you run, which is if you sprint holding R, then basically when you go to roll, it will instead come out as a dive. Now it'll only come out as a dive if the enemy you are hunting is in the vicinity, because you're basically in a kind of endangered state. But when you do that dive, it's basically what we call like a safety dive. And for the split second that you are actually in the air, you're invulnerable. So if you're about to get hit and you don't think there's even a way for it to roll out the way, then the best way is to safety dive. Now what you're seeing in front of you at the moment is a shock trap. We put that down. That is the small sort of purple icon. This is basically if you're fighting an enemy and you put it on the floor and they run into it, it will shock them and trap them for, you know, sort of 10 seconds depending. I mean they stay in the shock trap longer if they're weaker, but obviously at the moment we've only just started fighting this monster, so he's quite strong still, so he didn't stay for too long. But if you are having trouble, for example this monster, he moves around quite a lot, then drop the shock trap and then obviously you can sit there, let him, you know, get stuck for a while and then lay into him and, you know, do enough damage. The other thing you need to bear in mind is if you look in the top left hand corner, I've tried to do it twice so far, and I've also obviously got knocked over by a snowball, which is what you don't want to do. You do want to be really careful when you use your items. But yeah, in the top left hand corner there's a little blade flashing green. Now when we started it was flashing blue. That is your weapon sharpness. Now basically, if as and when you fight throughout the level, your weapon will get blunt, and if you don't sharpen it, then the blunter your weapon, the less damage you do. So there is an item in your bag called a whetstone, which is that little sort of yellow icon, and that sharpens your weapon. So when your weapon sharpness goes down, then it's best to try and sharpen it up. But obviously don't do what I did at the beginning part of this video, which was sit there like a lemon and get hit twice when trying to sharpen my weapon. You really need to think, you know, either wait for an enemy to complete a move, and then when they're in their downtime, then use your item, because then you've got, you know, 5 seconds to spare or something like that. Or you do have companions in this, so wait until the enemy's attacking one of your companions, and then take the time to go and sharpen your weapon. So that is something else to bear in mind. Now what we're going to try out next are sonic bombs. Now these work differently on different enemies, and some enemies aren't affected by them, but this rabbit, for example, if you throw it, he gets stunned for a few seconds. So if he's in the middle of a move, or he's about to do something, then if you dash a sonic bomb, then it will shock him, and then you've got a few seconds to either get out, or get in and lay into him and do a few attacks. Now you do need to throw these in the general vicinity of the enemy, you can't just throw them anywhere, so think about it carefully. But as you can see again, through it, he's been stunned a bit, so I'm going to go in, do a few quick attacks, and then roll out again. Noting again that I did roll there, because rolling is the best way to get out. Now the other item, this is definitely not the way you should be using it, but just to demonstrate it, is the large barrel bomb. Now you can place it down here, and normally I would wait for the enemy to sort of run into it, but he threw a snowball there, which destroyed the bomb. So ideally, you know, we didn't get the kind of desired effect. But those bombs do a lot of damage. So the sensible thing to do would be to, for example, pair it with the shock trap we used earlier. Then when he's shocked, you place down a bomb, and then you can either detonate it yourself, which would mean you need to get quite close, or if you had, say, someone on your team who could then throw a projectile or shoot a projectile, then you shoot the barrel bombs and they do quite a lot of damage. So feel free to put them down. But if, for example, if you had to put it down and he hadn't have thrown a snowball, then when he did one of his slides and he ran towards it, he would have destroyed the bomb. So that's another sort of thing you've got at your disposal, and they give it to you at the beginning of the quest. Now, just while I mentioned the beginning of the quest as well, the blue chest that we drew items from at the beginning, always remember to check that when you start a quest, because they will always give you items to sort of start you off with. The red chest that was next to it was basically for when you do quests later on in the game and you deliver items. So red is for deliveries, blue is for collections. Now, jumping a little bit back into combat basics again, the important thing you need to take into account is that each monster has sort of weak spots. Now, for example, this monster, his weak areas are his head and his stomach. So where possible, you want to try and focus on them. Now, obviously, attacking his head and attacking his stomach means I am directly in front of him, which means anytime he attacks, I am in the immediate danger zone. So you do need to, you know, roll out and sort of bear this in mind. However, if you can get the attacks in there, then you're going to do a lot more damage than if I sort of stay behind him for the whole game and attack him there on. Now this enemy, he's probably not the best example because he's kind of weak all round anyway, but there are some enemies later on where their weak points are really important, because, for example, you might find that when you hit them, your weapon will bounce off them, and you physically can't hit. Like, someone might have like a really strong shell, and you physically can't hit it, so you have to go and pay attention to weak spots. So it's better to sort of learn it now, and then use it later on. Right, so following on from what we were saying on before, if you also pay attention to the Lagombi's head at the moment, you'll notice that his ears are broken. This is another thing that you'll get if you focus on attacking its head. You can break vital points on the enemies. Now, it's not so applicable in the demo, but when you're actually playing this for real, then when you want to hunt a monster and carve it at the end, and you want to sort of collect rare points, then if you smash parts of the monster, so for example if it's got horns and you break its horns or you cut its tail off, then you get more rare items at the end, so that's important to focus on. Now the last thing you want to look for is basically when an enemy is near to death, and you're sort of, because obviously there's no life bar for you to look at, you will notice that an enemy will begin limping. So if you look in front of you now, you'll see that it's trying to run away. Now when it starts limping, it will typically try and run somewhere so that it can go and sleep for a while and get a bit of health back. So Obviously if you see that, then that's your sign that you're near the end, so you just need to sort of lay into it. If for example you did have another shock trap and you had some trank bombs, then you can actually capture enemies, but that isn't an option in the demo, so we're just going to go and lay into them and hopefully finish off the quest. Right, anyway, so that is Lagon be defeated, and that's most of the combat basics and a few of the item basics covered, so hopefully you found that helpful. Now, obviously if you want to take a look at some of the other weapons, or you want sort of some beginner tips on which weapon to use and some advice on kind of what combos you should use and you shouldn't use at different times, then check out all the weapon videos located to your right. But other than that, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and share this video, it does really help me out. And obviously don't forget to subscribe if you want to check out my other videos. If there is anything particular you would like to see, or something I haven't covered and you would like covered, then drop a comment down below and I will do my best to cover it. But otherwise, thanks for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.